Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Is this camera straight? I think it's a little bit skew. Let's zoom it in and push it a bit across. That should do, hey? How are you? We hope that you're well. I want to talk to you about this clicks thing, although you've probably heard every reasonable argument that there is to tell, but I have a nice story. In 2014, excuse me. In 2014, I believe, I held a conversation with a woman, a black woman, as it happens, somebody whom I like, somebody who I think is a good-hearted person. So it was not an acrimonious conversation, but she was quite direct with me. She told me how white cosmetics companies had failed to produce cosmetics. She was referring to makeup. She went on to say other things as well, but initially about makeup. That white cosmetics companies had failed in their responsibility, some implied responsibility, to produce makeup suitable for black skins. In other words, it was her belief that white, because she was quite particular about it, white cosmetics companies had an obligation to black people. We white people, whether it be in cosmetics or pharmaceuticals or whatever the case may be, have an obligation, presumably from the very beginning, to produce things suited to black people's needs. Now that we've done it, in the case of Tresemme shampoo or Tresemme hair treatment, we shouldn't have done it. It reminds me of a story. Gee, I wish I could remember the details of this story better. I listened to a podcast on it. I believe that the podcast was on WNYC, but I don't remember. Some years ago, and it's in fact the second time I've heard the story, I just can't find it again, about an enormous medical breakthrough that took place in the USA in, if I'm not mistaken, the late 70s. Yes, I think the late 70s or the early 80s, in which it was discovered that certain medicines didn't work for black people and that other medicines were more ideal for black people. And when the news began to emerge, it was immediately condemned by the politically correct classes and by certain black leaders. I can't remember exactly whom. It might have been Louis Farrakhan. I don't remember. It was condemned because black people and their keepers, for want of a better word, or their advocates, were dead against the idea that black people's bodies, that black people's physiologies, that black people's DNAs could function differently to white people's. So much so that they suppressed this enormous medical advance to the detriment of black people for a few years. And there was, as I can recall the story, a woman doctor, a white woman, who refused to let go of the matter. And in spite of the opprobrium, the disapproval, the disgust, the shunning of her, she persisted in her endeavors to reveal the truth for the sakes of those black people who were not taking advantage of this science. And eventually it came out. Eventually, through gritted teeth, the politically correct classes and the blacks who had ensured the suppression of this information gave way and permitted it to be publicized, and indeed permitted ultimately the American and implicitly global medical organizations to allow their practitioners, their members, the doctors, to say to a black person, hey, this is the one that's best for you, don't take that one, it's no good for you. Now, some of you will be saying, yeah, well, that just goes to show they're so damn stupid and they're making absolute fools of themselves, blah, 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 blah. You're wrong. They, when you refer to the revolutionaries themselves, are not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're playing you for a fool. Yes, it's true that they're playing their constituencies for fools too. They know that the average man on the street, black person, has got no clue. And all they're endeavoring to do is to advance their interests through these peona. We actually have the same word in English, peons. Through this, I can't think of another word. Through these puppets, through the cannon fodder of the revolution, through the ignorant masses, through the proletariat, through the peasant classes. But they know, trust me, they know that they're exploiting something falsely. Those of you who are interested in such things would do well to do some research on the people who fund revolutions. It's always the same people. And they are highly, highly, highly intelligent people. The backers of revolutions, the brains behind revolutions, the driving forces behind revolutions. And now we're not talking about Julius Malema. Julius Malema is not at the apex of the hierarchy. He's not even on the third echelon of the hierarchy. Julius Malema is a puppet of puppets of puppets of a puppet master. Of that you may rest assured. But even he, Julius Malema, knows. Once he'd had a look at that advert and once he'd consulted with some of the women in the organization, if he did so, I presume that he spoke to somebody about it. He would have known that the advertisement was in no way, shape or form anti-black. On the contrary, it was playing to blackness. It was the realization of the efforts of what the woman in Johannesburg called, to my face, white cosmetics companies. And of course their vendors, clicks. So you have the cosmetics companies coming up with the product for the sake of black people. As in recent years there have been advances in black cosmetics, makeup. And the vendor clicks in releasing that product in response, apparently, according to my friend, to black demand. And black needs. And the revolutionaries know that, trust me, they do. They're not stupid. They're bright. Willfully obtuse and perverse, but not stupid. There's more to say on this subject, but it's sensitive, and I weigh my words carefully, not because they are unjust or unfair or false, but purely because there is what is known as an Overton window in our society, a limited spectrum of permissible speech and ideas and behavior. You know that recently the South African Human Rights Commission has said that it will not prosecute cases of people glorifying farm murders, glorifying murder and rape of families producing food on the hinterland. But you know that with every energy they can muster, they will pursue cases against people who use a politically incorrect word. A word, by the way, which is politically incorrect only for white people. Black people do use the K word when it suits them. So I'm not even going to dwell on the obvious argument, which is a false argument. I'll articulate it, but I'm not going to dwell on it because it is false. And that is that the marketing director of Clicks is a black guy called, if I'm not mistaken, Veli Mabena. It is level 6 BEE. All of the directors, I don't have the list of directors in front of me, but I did have a look. All but 2, I believe, are black or Indian colored, you know what I mean. There's a black CEO. They have 7,800 employees in a share scheme. 86% of the beneficiaries of the share scheme are black and 65% are female. As I'm reading something here, as this black woman says, black people made the advert and a black director signed off on the advert. Do you have any idea how stupid you all look right now? Yeah, of course they look stupid. They always look stupid when it comes to these things. The same people under the same circumstances. But you would be very, very, very mistaken to believe that the people who drive these things are stupid. They are not. You must begin to recognize that there is an agenda. You must begin to recognize that the agenda will be served by fair means and foul, meaning that they will do whatever it takes. They don't care. And sometimes they will look foolish to people like you and me who think that we're ever so clever. And sometimes they will look cunning. But it's very seldom that they won't know what they are doing. I think that that's all that there is worth saying on this theme. I'm going to make another video or 2 about the clicks thing, because there are a couple of other points worth raising. But I think that we've explored this theme exhaustively. Yeah, that's it. Take good care of yourselves, everybody. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you soon.